Thanks so much for tuning in to the Happiness Happens podcast. If you're loving what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I would be so grateful if you could rate and review the show. It takes 2 seconds and it tells me what you're loving and what you're wanting more of. I'm your host, Simona Costantini, and I'm obsessed with understanding what it means to be happy. In 2018, I went through a massive journey and awakening, and I found myself having to relearn who I was and what I really wanted to do with my time on this planet. The truth is, I spent a lot of time looking happy on the outside, but not really feeling the same way on the inside. So I knew there must be other people who felt the exact same way as me, and I've learned along the way that there really are. And now I get to interview them and other thought leaders in the space on my podcast every single week. I'm a recovering people pleaser turned life coach and podcast producer. On this show, we get into what it means to be happy, the purpose and intention behind happiness, how to live a happier life, and we hear about all the hard moments that have shaped people to become resilient and living out their passion every single day. Think of this as your one-stop shop to help you live a more purposeful, inspired life. This is the Happiness Happens podcast. Are you ready to dive into this inspiring conversation? Let's go. Okay, this week, get ready to have your mind blown by the most wonderful human being who has just such a gentleness and kindness about her. Her name is Kee Wolf, and she's evolved over 10 years into the wonderful world of writing, marketing, and publishing. Kee balances it all whilst being a mother of 3 and embarking on personal adventures. After working and studying in community services, counseling, health and fitness, creative writing, marketing and SEO copywriting, Kee embarked on growing her own writing brand. She boasts 5-star published books, front page web articles, compelling copywriting services, and captivating stories in the niche worlds of words for women. Calling sunny Queensland her home, Kee and her family make a point to do something exciting every year. Be it jumping out of a plane, climbing an active volcano, snorkeling in the reefs, and of course, writing great projects. Her writing spans across genre, voice, tone, and formats, but are all grounded in relatability because she writes about women for women. I'm really excited about this conversation today because Kee and I just chatted about so many different areas of copywriting, what the biggest parts are that she notices that people sort of forget in copywriting, the structures to writing social media captions, how to get your brand out there and how to really get noticed. So I invite you to dive into this conversation with us today because it'll be really helpful, especially if you're an entrepreneur listening in, on how to really create magic with your words. So let's not take up all the time right now. Let's dive in and see what Kee all has to share with us today. Hello, Kee. Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hello, Simona. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. I would love to dive in and just hear a little bit about your journey that's brought you to where you are today.
Absolutely. So, funnily enough, I did not start as a copywriter. I started as a content creator back in 2013. And I did that because I was actually at home raising my babies and I needed something to fill my time when they were sleeping. So I ended up picking up a writing position with one of Australia's largest pregnancy, birth and parenting websites, the Bub Hub, and I was writing articles for them mostly as a pastime, as a bit of a hobby. And I found that really enjoyable because it helped me to connect to other mothers and to other women in similar positions to what I was, and to be able to give them informational content and entertain them as well, which was really, really fun. So I didn't really take it too seriously for many, many years. I was just doing it because I enjoyed it. And one day I jumped into a group with 80,000 women on Facebook. It was a private group, and there was an opportunity, a post to create a story. So I decided, it sounds fun, and just started tapping away, making up a story as I went, and it blew up. The thousands of women that were in that group were commenting under that comment.
Oh, wow.
And they started messaging me, they started mob rolling me, asking me I need to know more about this story. Are you going to continue? What happens next kind of thing. So I thought, okay, well, obviously people are enjoying this content, and in particular, women always love my content. So I decided to flesh out the story and publish. So I popped it up on Amazon, and within 48 hours of popping it up, it had 9 5-star reviews. So and
Incredible.
this was all without any understanding of advertising or marketing. I hadn't plugged it. It was really only known in that group.
Wow.
So yeah, so I figured I've got something going here. I've obviously got some sort of way to attract people or to hook people with my writing. How do I develop this? So I contacted a marketing agency in my local city, and I asked them to help me. And they helped me initially as an author to set up my website and to start implementing some marketing strategy. And from there, I built a really lovely relationship with the woman who ran that business. And she told me, why don't you become a copywriter? So that was, I had heard of copywriting before, and I thought it was really interesting. And in the past, I'd looked into maybe doing a little bit of it, but I hadn't taken it seriously. And then at that point, it was like a light bulb went off in my mind. And I thought, okay, here is a chance to take something that I'm good at, something that I enjoy, and develop it into a skill that I can use as a career. And I did. So I dove into study, and I was studying marketing. I was studying copywriting on its own. I joined a comprehensive copywriting academy and started looking into SEO and things like that. And it just grew from there. So I decided to launch in November, soft launch. So I really just started putting myself out there. And within 2 months, it was January. So I launched in November, and in January, I booked out a month and a half ahead because I was applying the copywriting to my socials. Now, I don't have a functioning website at the moment. It's in the making because I'm very picky with my designers. But just through Instagram and Facebook alone, I was able to book out a month and a half in advance. And that's been consistent since. I've been generally a month to a month and a half in advance with bookings. So that's where I'm at the moment.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's essentially the story of where I got to where I am today.
Wow, I love that so much. And I feel like that is just such a powerful story for everyone who's listening right now, because I think there's so much around what building a business should look like, or what you should be doing in terms of even having a business. How do you start?
Absolutely.
What direction do you go? And, another thing that I love that you kind of like said without saying it is that it wasn't just something that you did overnight and so on. It was something that took you time to refine and to spend time and working on. And I think that's another piece too that people don't always see, like the amount of passion and drive and love that gets put into it before it even hits the public eye, right?
And I think a lot of people, they'll judge themselves up against someone who's been doing what they're doing for years, and then wonder, why am I here and they're there? Mm-hmm. Why can't I recreate this thing that this person is doing? How are they so successful? And I'm struggling to build a following, but it's years of difference. It's years of experience. It's years of putting themselves out there. And it really is a long game in every aspect. You have to commit and be consistent from the beginning, and it grows from there. And I think we really need to be kind to ourselves in terms of where we're at and how we're judging ourselves up based on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you. And so what are some of the biggest things that you notice that people miss when they're creating their copy or their content?
Absolutely. So I think there are some really good natural writers out there who are putting themselves out there. And I think consistency really is key. So if you're jumping on and you're being consistent, that's a start. And it's really fantastic that you're doing that. What I do see people missing is that when they're in business, they think it's all about sharing information and features of what they do or how they serve people or what products they sell. And what they're missing is they're describing what it is and the information behind it rather than how it transforms life for the consumer and how it benefits the consumer. So in copywriting, first and foremost, the first thing that needs to hook and grab the attention of your prospect or your future client, your future consumer, is how does it change things for them? So we need to hook them with straight away a sentence that tells them where the benefit is for them and how it's transformative, rather than what it does or what it is. Yeah. So I do find people miss that a little bit because they dive straight into describing the product or service, or, you know, they're more just trying to give as much information as they can so that they can explain why you need it. But really, you just need to be talking more about the emotion behind why people need it. Another thing I notice that people do is they'll give out this information, but they're almost afraid to include a call to action. So they're almost afraid to direct the person on where the next step is and how to do it. So, you know, you'll see Instagram feeds that are full of valuable content, and at the end of each segment, at the end of each post, there's no action. There's no, there's no sentence that tells the person what to do next. So something that is really important is your consumer will not take action if you don't tell them how. Mm-hmm. And a call to action, it doesn't always have to be a sale. For a lot of your posts, your call to action could be prompting people to comment, prompting people to get involved and engaged. And then when you do use the call to action and sprinkle that through for the sale, people are going to be used to you asking them and telling them what to do next. And then they're going to have a clear path on where they should go to take action when they see the value in your content and they want to take that action. Yeah.
I love that. Now, so if someone's listening right now and they've maybe been in business for a little bit, couple months, couple years, and, you know, their copywriting is just sort of like struggling, it's not really converting, you know, and they're taking the tips, they're listening to our conversation today and taking the tips that you're giving, how does someone start when they've been in business for so long? Like, how do you start to make those little shifts?
Honestly, I would just start implementing them into your post moving forward. So people love to see the journey that you've been on. You know, you don't have to go back and delete everything that isn't quite right or, you know, change it all. But moving forward, you could start looking at how you're structuring your copy, maybe check in on a few formulas that are working and see how those are structured, and then just move forward with it. So you could start posting with more call to actions, start implementing more storytelling. That's another one I didn't bring up, but storytelling is fantastic as well. So if you can bring someone through a story of transformation that ends in that call to action, that's going to be very, very impactful. Yeah, so implementing it throughout their socials to begin with is what I would suggest. And then looking at your core pages, so, you know, your landing pages, your funnels, and all of those kind of things, and just checking in if there's anything missing from that structure, if there's anything that could pop a little bit more and that could be a little bit more directive, adding those in as you go as well. But, you know, it doesn't have to transform straight away overnight, and you don't have to go back and hate on yourself for all of these previous, you know, pieces
ways
of copy.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's so true. It's actually so true. It's kind of like when you say it out loud, it's almost like a silly question. You know what I mean? Like, of course you would just start. And that's how anything just starts, is you just take the action to like do something different, to do it in a different way. And when you talk about structure of your content, are there specific structures that people should be following in terms of creating captions? And is there more than one? Because I feel like, you know, a lot of people are like, hey, you have like your hook, of course, like that will always stay.
Yes.
But then it's like, sometimes it'll be like, tell a personal story. Sometimes it's like bullet, bullet, bullet. And then sometimes, you know, so I know there's things that must always be in there, but does it change? Are there different structures, or do you recommend staying with only one structure?
Yeah, I mean, there's elements to it that I think should stay in place at all times. Like your hook should really always be there, and your call to action always needs to be there. For example, bulleting is, in my opinion, bulleting is more about readability. So people are more likely to read bullets than they are to read a wall of text.
It's
So
true.
in terms of your design, you want to be breaking up your sentences into a maximum 3 at a time so that people don't see it as this daunting, terrible essay that they have to get through, because they won't do it. People online, they skim read, and they want to be able to have pieces of text stand and pop out to them so that they can absorb that better. But getting back to what we were saying, yeah, there's different formulas, and they're highly, you can switch them up. It doesn't have to be exactly structured every single time. I tend to follow the pasta formula for most of the sales pages that I write. So that's problem, agitation, storytelling and solution, transformation, testimonial, offer, response. So that's bringing people through their, through story. You're bringing out the pain points, you're bringing out the frustrations, and then you're giving them a solution through storytelling, and then the transformation that they're looking for with testimonials. Now, again, it doesn't mean that I structure that exactly that way every single time. And there are elements that you can add in, and there are elements that you can switch up. But generally, I would look to what formulas are working. Yeah. So look at what sales pages are out there, what funnels are out there that are converting at a high rate for your niche, and then take inspiration from that, because the reality is when you're writing your copy, you do not want to be starting from scratch, because what you really need to be doing is using what works, yeah, and then filling in the gaps with your unique language and brand voice. So yeah, if you know a formula is working, go with that formula and switch it up so that it has your brand voice, it has your unique selling point, it has your personality, but it's still bringing people through that psychological journey in a way that we already know works.
I love that so much. It's true, because if you have these pages that are really high converting, the odds are that they've hired someone to write that page.
Exactly.
And that person who's been hired, such as yourself, knows exactly what to put on there to make it into that high converting page.
That's right. And it's based on data, it's based on psychology, and it's an ongoing study. So copywriters are constantly testing, trialing, looking at the results and tweaking from there. So everything that you do, everything you write, is a long game. It is a long journey, and you're never going to find something and then just stick to that forever. Yeah, it's always going to be changing. You're always going to be looking at, okay, what's working and what isn't, and tweaking it up from there. So you can create an evergreen sales funnel, but over time you want to continue to look into what's working, what's converting really well, and then you can change your funnels up to suit that.
I love that. That's a really, really, really good point. And I think that's so important. And it's like, the amount of time that you spend writing captions, like I feel like a lot of times people can become really frustrated with creating content and all of that kind of thing. But I think it's like when you really take the fuss out of it and you just sort of connect back to the message that you want to share, I feel like your message will kind of, with some different, like with the actual structure behind it, your message is so important. Like you were saying, like your brand, like tone, feel, the words you use, all of that, it's so important.
It is. And I think that's where getting a done for you template can be really helpful, but you do need to inject your own brand into that. Yeah. If everyone's using the same words, they're all blending in. You're all the same. You need to stand out. You need to have words that resonate with your audience and that resonate with your brand, and bring out that individuality. Don't be afraid to be different and to stand out. People actually pay more attention to words that get their attention because it's a little bit different. It's not what they were expecting. Have you ever seen a billboard and thought, that's a really odd statement, and then there'll be a supporting statement that tells you what it is, and you go, wow, and then it sticks in your mind, right? Because it's not what you were expecting. Every other billboard that says it, what you used to, you're going to drive right past it. You're not going to pay it much attention. But yeah, when we insert our own uniqueness and our own personality of the personality of our brand into all of our copy, people start to pay attention. So yeah, definitely.
So important and so true. And for everyone who's listening right now, your branding is amazing. Like
Oh,
on
thank
your page, I
you.
love it. Your aesthetic, everything about it, I love so much. It really captures your eye. And like, I'll just be really transparent. I get so many people in my DMs always asking me, "Oh, can I come on the podcast today?" Whatever. And I looked at your page and I was like, "Yes, please." I was like, not only are we going to talk about something we've never spoken about on here, you have this presence, and that's important online,
Oh,
which is really great.
thank you. Yeah, it's funny because my actual personality, who I am, I'm not very glamorous. I'm pretty down to earth, and I'm a jeans and tee kind of
Love it.
girl. Yet my brand, for some reason, has manifested into this ultra glamorous feminine diva brand. And I love it. And it's like I love stepping into that persona and helping people through that, because I suppose that's the mentality of the brand, is that you're going to breach your first 6 figures, you're going to breach your first 7 figures,
Yeah.
and that's very glamorous. And it's where you get to start treating yourself, and it's where you get to start dressing up and
Yeah.
being
And like
really
elevating and
fancy. So
yeah. I love it. I love it so much. And in terms of, I saw this thing that you had written about. I saw this thing that you had written about on your page, and it was about like reciprocity in terms of freebies. So I
yes.
kind of want to elaborate a little bit on this because I thought it was such an interesting topic and perspective, and I've never heard it before. Yeah, so feel free to explain a little bit about what that is and how it's so
Oh,
important.
you're gonna light me up. So, reciprocity is one of the laws of persuasion. If you haven't yet, I recommend anyone listening to this podcast to download a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini. He's a PhD psychologist, and he talks about the different laws of persuasion that can be used throughout all different areas in life that help people to make decisions.
Okay.
And he talks about how this can be used for good, it can be used for evil, and there's all kinds of examples out there of how this has been insanely powerful in the world. And reciprocity is interesting because what people gain from you is when you give out value for free, and people can understand that value and take action with it and actually achieve something with that value, they're going to become more inclined to give back to you.
Mm.
So they're going to be more inclined to connect with you, and they're going to be more inclined to help you out as well. I suppose it's like the law of the favor, right? And what I see people doing with their freebies that is becoming a bit of a problem is they're turning their freebies into a skim over of value and then a long pitch. And the pitch is good. We need the pitch because we do want to draw the line on how much value we're giving before we start giving paid value. But if we are skimming over the value and getting straight to the pitch, people start to mistrust our freebies. Yeah.
Mm.
And we're starting to see that because freebies have become a very popular thing for coaches and for service providers to use to get people into their funnels. But when it's not done right, it builds that mistrust that we're just selling to them, and nobody wants to be sold to. So in your freebie, when you're creating an ebook or a webinar, you have to make sure that there's some sort of value there for your target market that is going to take them from step A to step B. We
Mm.
don't have to take them to step Z, which is where we will take them when they join our services, but they need to make some progress. I see it too often that is skimmed over. You can go a little bit deeper to offer people the kind of value that's going to get them coming back to you. And when they do, it will be tenfold. When they do gain that value from you and they're able to put it into action and achieve something from it, that's when they click and they say, this person is who I need. This is the person who can take me to the next step. And they're going to keep coming back to you because they know that they can gain more value from you. If you can give away value for free that really does help them, then what have you got behind your curtain? You know what I mean? Like,
That's
it's,
so true.
yeah. So
I love
the
that.
law of reciprocity is simply when you give value, it's essentially karma. When you give value, people will place value on you and
Mm-hmm.
your brand.
I love that a lot. And I think that's really important too because you hear all the time, how many freebies have you downloaded that just sort of like go into the trash? You know what I mean? Or like,
Yes.
do you even remember or know who you downloaded this freebie from? You know what I mean? And it's
Mm,
kind of like, it's a really interesting thought. And the other piece that I was going to add to that is that, we create all these different things and provide all this value. And I was listening in on this room on Clubhouse last week. And I love Clubhouse. I don't know if you're on it, but it's super, super fun.
I'm not sure. Is it out for Android yet?
No, it's not.
Yeah, because I'm on Android and I've got
Oh,
so much FOMO. They've marketed this so well because they've introduced FOMO for people who can't get to it.
and
And I
everyone
swear to
like
God,
so many people are like going out and like buying, a burner
right?
iPhone just to get access. It's crazy.
That must have been a deal, yeah? Like,
Yeah.
they must have put that together on purpose.
It's so true. It's so true. So I was listening in on this room and it was all these social media experts kind of talking about what content will look like in 2021 and like that kind of thing. And a lot of them were saying like to give less value away. What are
Okay.
your thoughts? I'm curious.
I think there needs to be a line on
Hmm.
how much value you're giving away. But I have to say, if people aren't gaining value from you, then why would they come back to you? Do you know what I mean?
So
Like,
true.
yeah, it needs to be in the terms of what you're talking about, where people are taking your freebie and throwing it in the trash. I feel that that comes down to the copy, and it
Yeah.
does come down to the entertainment factor and whether it grabs them and gets their attention to actually look at the content. But what you might be touching on there and what these experts might be talking about is overwhelming your customer or
Mm.
overwhelming your prospect. So there is a point where you can give too much. And if you do give too much at once, if you're throwing everything at them, people can become overwhelmed and shut down if they don't think it's actionable and if they
Mm.
don't think they can achieve something out of it. Maybe what they're touching on, I haven't listened to it myself, so I can't say, they are possibly touching on the overwhelm factor. So if you're throwing too much value out there and you're expecting someone to go from A to K, when realistically we want to get them from A to B,
Mm-hmm.
they might just be shutting down. And because they can't put it into action or they're feeling too frozen
Mm-hmm.
by having to achieve all of this, this, and this before they can get to the next step, then that might be, yeah, what's going on there. So,
It makes
but
sense.
you definitely need to add value. If people can't get from A to B, they've gained nothing
Success.
from you and you've
Yeah.
wasted their time and you've wasted your time as well.
Exactly, exactly. And also I think burn your credibility a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
exactly.
when
You become
yeah.
spam. You become spam. And that's the last thing you want for your brand, is to be seen as the money grabbing brand that spams people with essentially a pitch. You want to, yeah, it's
It's true.
the same thing. We want to give enough value so that the person picking up the freebie can have a moment, can have an achievement. um, we don't want to overwhelm them, but we also don't want to give them nothing,
Mm-hmm. It's true.
or to give them such a light amount of value that they just feel like, oh, I already knew that, or that's not taken me very far. Yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. It's such a good point. And on that note, what 3 tips would you leave our listeners with in terms of something maybe they should add into their content creation or their copywriting?
For strategy in copywriting, the first thing I would say, and this is before you even put your pen to paper, know your audience.
Mm.
So go out there. Don't just come up with an offer and assume because you think it's great that other people are going to think it's great. Go out there and ask questions, develop an idea based on what your target market is telling you, and find out who they are and more about them. Yeah. So like really develop your avatar. We call them avatar, but it's like your perfect client, your perfect customer. Who are they? What are their stats? What do they love? What are they frustrated by? What journey are they on, and where are they looking to be? When you can really map out this is your first part of copy. Like you need to map this out and really know exactly who it is that you're talking to and exactly what they need from you. That would be step one. That would be the first thing I would tell anyone in business to do, is really dig deep on who you're talking to and get to know them, start engaging with them as well. Number two, definitely keep your language about that transformation. So you can use storytelling, you can use direct call to action, posts, but whatever you're doing, you want to keep it about how are we transforming things for your potential client? Where are they now? Where are they going to be? And how is that going to make them feel? How is it going to transform things for them? So I would implement that, number two, into your copy. And number three, don't be afraid to add call to actions that ask for the sale. And it's funny, it's like people will make call to actions, but when it comes to selling, there's almost a psychological block there where we don't want to be salesy, or we don't want to be, annoying people with our pitches.
True.
But you have to ask for the sale. And the thing is, when you're genuine and authentic, and when your offer will change somebody's life, it's a disservice to them to then not ask for the sale, because that sale or that service is going to change things for them. So yeah, just make sure that you are asking for action in all of your posts. It doesn't have to be a sale every time, but when you do ask for the sale, do it. Make it clear and make it one next step for people.
I love that so much. It's true. I mean, if you think about it, any company in the entire world who is profitable makes a sale. Like, even if you're putting an ad on the TV, for example, and you're showcasing a new product, your underlying message is go and buy this product. And so there's no problem to buy into that kind of messaging. And if you think of yourself as the consumer, we go and buy things all the time. So I think you have to believe in what you're writing about, making sure that you actually believe what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Believe in your pitch.
And believe in yourself as well. I mean, I think a lot of that stems from people feeling uncertain about themselves, or worried, or, anxious that they're annoying people, or that they're, it's that imposter syndrome that's coming up. 100%. And that's where the mindset work comes in, and really understanding your value and how your purpose changes things for other people. So I would definitely recommend doing some mindset work and hiring an awesome coach to do that with you, if that's coming up for you consistently. Really addressing the core of where that uncertainty is coming up, and how you can step into your confidence and gain the ability to do what you do best through that.
I love that. I have one more question for you, and it's a question that I ask all of my guests when they come on the show, and it's, how can someone create a little more happiness in their day every day starting today?
I think, just to be honest, have fun. Don't think that everything you do is a risk, or is going to, I feel like I've dealt with so much anxiety in my own personal life, and what came up for me a lot, and what really interrupted my happiness, was letting that anxiety or the worry, or the stress of running a business get in the way of my happiness. And the reality of it is, we're all just here to make a difference. We're all just here to do our best. Have fun with it. If you're not enjoying it, switch it up, try something that gives you happiness, and step away every now and then. Do something for yourself every day, if that's going for a walk or a swim, or just spending some time with your family. I do not believe in the 24/7 hustle mentality. I think you can definitely go and watch Netflix if you, if you want to have some downtime. Go out with your girlfriends, have a wine, whatever it means to you to de-stress and come back to yourself. If that's what you need, then do it for sure.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much. Where can our listeners find you?
Okay, so at the moment, I'm predominantly on Instagram, and you can find me at KiWolfWrites. So that's KiWolfWrites. I do have a website in the making. It is a long game, but it is coming, and that will be KiWolfWrites.com. So keep an eye out for that one as well.
Oh my God, that's so exciting. We'll link it in the show notes so that people can access it really easily. Thank you so much for your time and for coming on to the podcast today.
Thank you so much for inviting me and, accepting my pop-up in your DMs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad to be connected with you. And this conversation was amazing. Awesome. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode on the podcast. I hope you learned so much. Let us know what you loved. Be sure to tag us on social media and share with us what resonated the most. Wishing you a wonderful day. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it. Well, it looks like we've made it to the end of this episode. I'm so grateful for you tuning into this week's episode, and I cannot wait to see you over on the next one. If you loved this conversation and this topic as much as I did, please feel free to leave us a rating or a review wherever you're listening. It takes just a second, and it is so important for us so that we can make sure to deliver this content to those who need it. I'm wishing you the most beautiful day wherever you are in the world, and remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.